Welcome to the Arizona Civics Podcast and our series, Understanding State and Local Government, a 10-part mini-lecture series exploring Arizona's history, governance, and civic life. This podcast is designed to provide clear, engaging insights into topics like judicial selection, tribal sovereignty, and direct democracy. Our content expert, Dr. Sean Bienberg, a Phoenix native and scholar of state and federal constitutions, brings deep expertise to this series. Dr. Bienberg serves as the Associate Director of ASU's School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership and is the Director of the Center for American Civics. He is also author of Prohibition, the Constitution, and States' Rights, as well as Progressive States' Rights. Let's dive into the systems and stories that shape Arizona's civic life.
Under the U.S. Constitution and its structure of federalism, the federal government is assigned to a few incredibly important but largely specific roles, particularly things like national and international commerce, foreign policy, and the postal system. And this is reflected in the structure of its enumerated powers, in which the federal government is specifically given various specific powers, and all other powers are assumed to remain with the states, using what is called the police powers. Police does not mean nightstick and a badge, but police means politics, polity, society in effect. Particularly, the obligation to deal with health, welfare, safety, and morals remains with the state governments. The states are the fundamental building block sovereigns. All states use effectively a delegation of power from themselves to smaller units within their borders. Generally, these are called counties. Some places call them parishes and other things. In Arizona, these are called counties. There are 15 of them here. In addition, there's another kind of local government, which is a municipality, which is either a city or a town. Now, this gets a little complicated because cities and towns are within counties, but some people are only residents of a county and not a city. These are called unincorporated areas. The jurisdiction between the cities and the counties is thus a little hazy in some ways. Some places, the counties will take on the obligations of cities, others, the cities will do that. So to make that a little more specific, for example, things like law enforcement, in some cases, may be attached to a county or to a town or to a city. This varies basically based on what the city's itself obligation is set in its charters. The relationship between counties and cities is admittedly a little bit complicated because depending on the size of the city or even whether there's a city that's incorporated at all, some of these obligations may be found lodged with the county. Others may be again lodged with the municipality. So, for example, fire and law enforcement or administration of things like zoning may be attached to counties, may be attached to a city. Many people live in, particularly in more rural areas, do not live in an incorporated city or town, so the counties will take care of those obligations. And so, for example, your primary law enforcement might be the county sheriff. If, by contrast, one lives in a city or a town, one may have a local police department or a local fire department. Both cities and towns, as municipalities and counties, are all creatures of the state government. So the state government effectively creates their primary obligations, their primary responsibilities. They do have a limited amount of local government, but effectively only as assigned to them by the state government, where again, most powers are. So within the county, the state will incorporate some cities or towns. So to make that a little more specific, for example, residents of Phoenix are also residents of Maricopa County. Phoenix is within Maricopa County, but there are other parts of Maricopa County as well. Mesa, Scottsdale, and even parts that are not even incorporated at all. Similarly, the city of Tucson is a part of Pima County, but there are other people who live in Pima County in both other cities and towns, but also in unincorporated parts in more rural areas as well. Schools are an additional sort of complicated part of local government where the state sets some rules. School boards are often attached to a city, but sometimes these are even cut into smaller pieces as well. So the relationship between schools, for example, is a concise illustration of some of the complications of local government. But these governments are incredibly important, and they're also particularly useful ways in which citizens can become very easily involved because of their smaller scale and their ability to have more meaningful participation. So they're often forgotten They're not necessarily thought of as fun or as well known as other parts of the state government, but local government is part of what citizens can do to engage in their system.
Thank you for joining us. This series is brought to you by the Center for American Civics at ASU, where we're working to make Arizona a national model for civic education. Special thanks to our content expert, Dr. Sean Byenberg, for his insights. Follow us on social media to stay connected and share your thoughts. We are on social media at ASU Civics on pretty much every platform. Don't forget to check out the show notes for any relevant links. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep learning.